Verses 8 to 29. Even in Horeb they made a calf and worshipped it, v8, etc. That was a sin so heinous, and by several aggravations made so exceedingly sinful, that they deserved upon all occasions to be upbraided with it. It was done in the very place where the law was given, by which they were expressly forbidden to worship God by images, and while the mountain was yet burning before their eyes, and Moses had gone up to fetch them the law in writing. They turned aside quickly, v16. God was very angry with them for their sin. Let them not think that God overlooked what they did amiss, and gave them Canaan for what was good among them. No, God had determined to destroy them, v8, could easily have done it, and would have been no loser by it. He even desired Moses to let him alone that he might do it, v13, 14. By this it appeared how heinous their sin was, for God is never angry with any above what there is cause for, as men often are. Moses himself, though a friend and favorite, trembled at the revelation of God's wrath from heaven against their ungodliness and unrighteousness, v19. I was afraid of the anger of the Lord, afraid perhaps not for them only, but for himself, PS 119:120. They had by their sin broken covenant with God, and forfeited all the privileges of the covenant, which Moses signified to them by breaking the tables, v17. A bill of divorce was given them, and thenceforward they might justly have been abandoned forever, so that their mouth was certainly stopped from pleading any righteousness of their own. God had, in effect, disowned them, when he said to Moses, v12. They are thy people, they are none of mine, nor shall they be dealt with as mine. Aaron himself fell under God's displeasure for it, though he was the saint of the Lord, and was only brought by surprise or terror to be confederate with them in the sin. The Lord was very angry with Aaron, v20. No man's place or character can shelter him from the wrath of God if he have fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness. Aaron, that should have made atonement for them if the iniquity could have been purged away by sacrifice and offering, did himself fall under the wrath of God, so little did they consider what they did when they drew him in. It was with great difficulty and very long attendance that Moses himself prevailed to turn away the wrath of God, and prevent their utter ruin. He fasted and prayed full 40 days and 40 nights before he could obtain their pardon, v18. And some think twice 40 days, v25, because it is said, as I fell down before, whereas his errand in the first 40 was not of that nature. Others think it was but 140, though twice mentioned, as also in ch 10:10, but this was enough to make them sensible how great God's displeasure was against them, and what a narrow escape they had for their lives. And in this appears the greatness of God's anger against all mankind, that no less a person than his Son, and no less a price than his own blood, would serve to turn it away. Moses here tells them the substance of his intercession for them. He was obliged to own their stubbornness, and their wickedness, and their sin, v27. Their character was bad indeed when he that appeared an advocate for them could not give them a good word, and had nothing else to say in their behalf but that God had done great things for them, which really did but aggravate their crime, v26, that they were the posterity of good ancestors, v27, which might also have been turned upon him, as making the matter worse and not better, and that the Egyptians would reproach God, if he should destroy them, as unable to perfect what he had wrought for them, v28, a plea which might easily enough have been answered, no matter what the Egyptians say, while the heavens declare God's righteousness, so that the saving of them from ruin at that time was owing purely to the mercy of God, and the importunity of Moses, and not to any merit of theirs, that could be offered so much as in mitigation of their offense. To affect them the more with the destruction they were then at the brink of, he describes very particularly the destruction of the calf they had made, v21. He calls it their sin, perhaps not only because it had been the matter of their sin, but because the destroying of it was intended for a testimony against their sin, and an indication to them what the sinners themselves did deserve. Those that made it were like unto it, and would have had no wrong done them if they had been thus stamped to dust, and consumed, and scattered, and no remains of them left. It was infinite mercy that accepted the destruction of the idol instead of the destruction of the idolaters. Even after this fair escape that they had, In many other instances they provoked the Lord again and again. He needed only to name the places, for they carried the memorials either of the sin or of the punishment in their names. v22 at Taberah, burning, where God set fire to them for their murmuring at Massah, the temptation, where they challenged Almighty power to help them, and at Kibroth Hattova, the graves of lusters, where the dainties they coveted were their poison, and, after these, their unbelief and distrust at Kadesh Barnea, of which he had already told them, ch 1, and which he here mentions again, v23, would certainly have completed their ruin if they had been dealt with according to their own merits. Now let them lay all this together, and it will appear that whatever favor God should hereafter show them, in subduing their enemies and putting them in possession of the land of Canaan, it was not for their righteousness. It is good for us often to remember against ourselves, with sorrow and shame, our former sins, and to review the records conscience keeps of them, that we may see how much we are indebted to free grace, and may humbly own that we never merited at God's hand anything but wrath and the curse.